My friend, Michael Lloyd-White.
Hello, Salisbury. Normally, I'm not standing next to the person when they do that reading, so it's very confronting for an Australian to hear all that right at the time. You're normally in the audience, then you come up on stage. Thank you so much, Grace. And I've had the pleasure to know Grace for about a year now. And she drove 3 hours to Alexandria in Washington to meet with me and to talk about what she's doing, what the city is doing, and what we can do. And over that time, we've stayed in contact. And Salisbury has been well and truly on the international radar because of this woman. So I think you have a debt that is well and truly earned. And I am very pleased to be here, courtesy of Grace Foxwell Murdoch. Thank you. And listening to that, it reminds me of the journey and how I got here. This is not something I planned to do. It wasn't on my radar at all. I was happy. I had a good life. I had a comfort zone. I had a really nice comfort zone. And it just goes to show you how one thing can lead to another, lead to another, lead to another. And for me, it was just an incident that happened at a primary school during a fundraising event. And we raised a lot of money in a very short time. We were new parents at the school. But during that event, some things came to light about some behaviour in the playground. But it wasn't the kids. It was the parents, or the mums and dads. And what had happened was we made a clown cry. That's right, girls and boys. We made a clown cry. Like, who would do that? We did that. Now, our school wasn't an ordinary school. It was a public school. But in my daughter's class was Charlie Crowe, Russell Crowe's son. It's got nothing to do with the story. I'm just blatantly name dropping. But it gives you an idea that there were some high-profile people at the school. And I had a choice. We could go to the PTA meeting. They invited us to the PTA meeting and give us a round of applause and a pat on the back and take the $13,000 and thank you very much. Or I could keep... No, I'm not going to say that. Or I could go to the meeting and put at risk what we all value most. And that is a sense of belonging. You're a new parent, you've just been welcomed in, and what are you about to do? Put at risk play dates, put at risk invitations to cocktail parties and barbecues, and point to a problem within the school community and be called one of those parents that are troublemakers. But I got $13,000 that will buy me a little bit of time. So that's what I decided to do. And I said, I'd spoken to the principal beforehand and she explained that there had been some issues. And I said, I think we've got a problem. We made a clown cry. This is a young girl that had a party plan business. She was just in the start-up phase and she was really popular. She wasn't like Krusty the Clown, wasn't an old middle-aged guy. It was a young girl who had driven an hour, came and helped us set up. And then she was doing balloon animals and painting faces and magic tricks. So she was popular and the queue went for a long way, but the parents became impatient. They didn't want to be there. They wanted to go and do whatever it is that they needed to go and do. So two parents came up to her, grabbed the balloons out of her hand and said, "You're too slow. We'll blow them up." They blew them up, and now you can tie the effing things up, and threw them back at her. We don't have all day. Quote, unquote. And there was about half a dozen other things that happened. Now, I didn't know that was going to be the beginning of my journey. I had no idea. Who would? But that's what I shared with them. And they said, tell us the names of these parents and we'll go and have a word to them. So I don't want to go on a witch hunt. I didn't actually say witch. I don't want to go on a witch hunt. But I think what we need to do is look at something proactive, something positive. And I see that there's an event planned on the calendar on around November 13. And I Googled, and November 13, when you Google, comes up as World Kindness Day. I never heard of it, but I found it. I came prepared. And we could theme that event with our school motto. Guess what the school motto was? Kindness and courtesy. In fact, the poster ended up being kindness and courtesy coming to the eastern suburbs. Coming soon to the eastern suburbs. But, and the response I got was, well, what's the appropriate level of kindness you want to promote, Michael? We don't want to overdo it. And I lied. I said, I don't know how to answer that. The voice in my head is saying, more than the appropriate level of meanness, you so-and-so. But we got it through, the motion got passed, we had the event, and even though it was only a small school of 300 students, we ended up with 3,000 people coming to the event. But I was reading the headlines, and the headlines were, 12-year-old takes her own life. 14-year-old killed when intervening in a situation of bullying. This is not in the US. This is in the lucky country. This is in Australia. Australia is the same size as America in landmass. Our population is 24 million. But we've got children in our country who are making the decision that this world is too cruel, too cold, too lonely, and too unkind, and they want to check out. And you're a dad. So yeah, then we have an event. The school has kindness everywhere. But it's bigger than one school. It's bigger than one city. It's bigger than one nation. It's a global pandemic. And you've got to look and understand why it's there and how to address that. And I think about those miners that go into the mine shaft in the old days. They didn't have the technology. They would take something that was precious and innocent and sensitive and gentle. They'd take a tiny little yellow bird in a cage because they knew it was so sensitive. The moment it began to gag, that the air had become toxic. And they would get out of the shaft, save their lives. Well, I think in our society today, when children decide to take their own life, that is our canary in the cage warning us that our culture has become toxic. A world that has become all about self, self-serve, self-help and self-ease. And I'll tell you something for those men in the room, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted, because that's what we do, right? These kind of events get people that are interested because they get it. But I want to help you. I want to give you some take-home stuff. So when you are going to your next meeting and somebody says, yes, kindness is all nice and warm and fluffy, sugar and spice, and all things nice, I want you to be able to say, and a lot of people in my space of kindness, they will talk to you about what a kinder world looks like. You know, and it's true. It's easy to paint that picture. But reality might be a bit different. But the fact is, if you say to them, I want you to imagine what a world with zero kindness looks like. Nada. No kindness at all. That means there is no first responders. That means there is no hospitals. That means there is no community centres. That means there are no churches. That means there is nada. No kindness in the family. In other words, your parents don't give a toss. So what would happen if you were unlucky enough to be born into a world with zero kindness? You'd be left on the slab. And what does that mean? What would happen to the human species within a generation? We would cease to exist. So think about that. Kindness is an absolute essential element to our survival. And it's so simple, right? Then why is it missing? Why has it gone MIA? Why is it when we do word searches, we can't find it? Whether it's on the national curriculum, in your boardroom minutes of meetings, in emails, the word kindness has been just gone. We have mindfulness, we have wellness, we have well-being. And there's nothing wrong with those words, but they're relatively young words because the word kindness is ancient. And why that's important, why the age of kindness, the word is important, because if anyone's in marketing, they know you need to, the older the brand, the more tenure it has. Think about Ford, think about Coke, think about, well, McDonald's is getting up there as well. They're powerful brands. The word kindness is ancient and it transcends religious texts. And I've got to tell you something else marketing people will tell you. Keep it simple. KISS. Keep it simple. It's got to resonate with a 4-year-old to a 94-year-old. Take mindfulness, well-being and wellness to a 4-year-old. And what does that mean? Or to a 94-year-old. What are you talking about? Take the word kindness and they get it. So before we even think about change, we've got to get this on the agenda. Put kindness on the agenda. Get it on your website. Don't be afraid to use it. Any adult educators, any educators in the room, I tell you right now, they are fearful. They are afraid to go and put the word kindness on the agenda and develop a program or a workshop to take it to the powers to be, or that be. Do you know why? Who are the powers that be? The guardians of the status quo. What do they look like? What colour are they? What gender are they? What age are they? What do they wear? Example A. I'm the sheep in wolf's clothing though. And they're afraid to take it there because they think it's vague. They think it's warm and fuzzy. And they think it's gender specific. There ain't anything warm and fuzzy about me. So we've got a bit of a mission ahead of us. And last night was the start of yours. But it's not going to be easy. I'll tell you, I do a little bit of talking. Some will tell you I do too much. Too much walking by the sounds of it as well, yeah. Okay, sorry. So, normally I would be asked to be a keynote speaker at the end of a conference. Anyone been to a conference? Yeah? Yeah? Sometimes I go for 3 days and you find your seat. You know, you find that seat and then you own that seat, right? This is my seat. It's my nice seat. I like this seat. And you find a friend. You found a new friend at the you found a buddy. It's my buddy. It's my seat, it's my buddy. And you hang out. And you know where you're going to go for coffee. You know what you're going to talk about because you've all of a sudden created a comfort zone. And I'll tell you one thing that I don't like about conferences and guest speakers. I really don't like it when they ask you to stand up and shake all about and do the downward dog or whatever it is because they think you're asleep. I'm awake. I'm listening. I just don't want to stand up. I really hate that. I don't know if anyone else does, but I don't like it. So I'm at the end of this 3-day conference, and the conferences that I go to, they're all about changing the world. They're all about doing positive things. Everybody is pumped, feeling good. So what do? Everyone stand up. And they all stand up. They happily stand up because that's the type of crowd that I hang with. And then I upset them. I say, I want you to look around the room. I want you to just look around the room and make eye contact with somebody who you haven't spoken to for the last 3 days. Maybe somebody who you haven't even noticed, but take a good look and find somebody who you don't know and haven't connected with. Okay, they can do that. And they look, oh yeah, oh, how you doing? Okay, you found somebody? I want you to pick up your stuff. I want you to leave your favourite chair and your new best friend and walk over to them and have a conversation. I don't want to do that. It's like the whole room went into slow-mo. Do you say that in America? Slow motion? Yeah? Okay. I forget what you guys speak. So, they go into slow motion and they don't want to do it. Like, who would? Nobody would, right? And they start to do it, and I'm waiting patiently, and I said, look, I'll throw you a lifeline. If you don't want to move, you don't have to, you can sit, and they sat back down. Everyone sits back down. And then I ask, hands up again, those people that want to change the world. And they put their hands up. And I said, how are you going to do that if you can't even change your seat? Right. Is that not right? Geez, we're a lazy lot. And I suggest that kindness is the path of most resistance. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories today, and one's got to do with exactly that, because what would have happened had you have left your seat? You don't know. What would have happened if you had walked up to that person and said hello? You don't know. If you stay in your seat, you do know exactly what's going to happen, what you're going to talk about, where you're going to have for coffee, how many sugars you're going to have. Everything will be the same. But what about if the person you walked up to had a possibility that was amazing, that just would have been missed? What about if the person you walked up to and said hello to had not been spoken to the entire conference, had just been there invisible? For whatever reason. Don't talk to me about unconscious bias. It doesn't exist. You know what your bias are because it's where you chose your seat. Sit over here. Why did you do that? You don't like beards? Whatever it is that got programmed into your brain when you were yay high is still in there. But when you have kindness on your agenda, your awareness is through the roof, your radar comes on and your bandwidth increases. Not only do you see the unseen, you actually are compelled to do something. You can't sit there and watch it. I was at a university dinner. We got a sports scholarship. I'll tell you, I can tell you about that. You're old enough. But I'll tell you about the girls' scholarship. This is a women's college, a very prestigious women's college in Sydney. And for the record, they are great. They're great. And they've been celebrating kindness all year. They signed up and became a member of World Kindness Australia. They signed the declaration and they had awards, and they put a collage together of all the kind things they did. There was a girl who was feeling depressed, so they secretly filled up her rooms with balloons and flowers and posters of "You're great, you're wonderful." So when she opened the door, there was a camera, and she came in and she saw all this, and all her friends went, "Yay!" That was really effective on video. It was really good. The principal and the staff are in their office, the lights are off, they come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, turn it on, the students are already there hiding with free hug posters and come out and start giving them hugs. That gave them a buzz for a week. This is a good school. But when you have kindness on your agenda, like really on your agenda, it changes you. And you know why I know? Because it changed me. I'm at this dinner. I'm on a table of 20 young ladies. There's 300 young ladies in the room between 18 and 23. The noise, the talking, the laughter in this room of 300 women is deafening, absolutely. But I'm on this table and I'm getting all the attention. And once upon a time, I would have been good with that. I would have been fine, but that wasn't what I was drawn to. I was drawn to the stillness and the silence of one girl about halfway down our table. And she was busy, she was preoccupied, being preoccupied. There were no cell phones in the room. She was focusing on her meal, looking at the ceiling, looking at her watch, looking at her food. And for 15 minutes at this kindness dinner at one of the most prestigious colleges in Australia, that was a member of World Kindness Australia, that had a perfect record, this girl was not only not spoken to, no one even looked at her. I did. And I mentioned it to the girls that were at the table. I said, "Who's that?" And they told me, and I said, "No one's speaking to her." "Oh yeah, she's quiet." And then I had to go up on stage. And I had to speak. And I said, "This is a great college. But do you know there are students in this room that have not even been looked at, let alone spoken to?" And what would happen? What would happen if one of you went up and put your personal brand at risk and used that most powerful word we have in our arsenal to break loneliness? Does anyone know what that word is? That's it. Just go up and say hello and invite her in. Maybe when she gets back to her room, she'll call her mum. And maybe she'll say, "You'll never guess who said hello to me today." I've got to tell you, talking about inclusivity, who's got that on their agenda? Anyone? Anyone got it in their value statement? Inclusivity? Anybody got it on their company to be inclusive? Yeah? Are we nodding? Yeah? That's good, right? We use it a lot. It's become a part of the furniture. You know what that saying means when it becomes part of the furniture? You don't really notice it. We have it because we're supposed to have it. So don't talk about it. Talk about the power of exclusion. Because we're good at that. The power of exclusion. Since we had fire, if the chief doesn't like you, you're banished. If the empire doesn't like you, you're exiled. Poor old Napoleon. If the church doesn't like you, you're excommunicated. If your family doesn't like you, you're disowned. Discharged in the army, expelled from school. We know if we really want to hurt somebody, we cut them off. Our parents taught us, if you have nothing nice to say, then don't say anything. And what does that mean? We're going to ignore you. Seriously? I tell my girls, if you have nothing nice to say, then dig a little deeper. How hard can it be? She's really mean, Dad. Well, ask her, is this the best we can be? But what if she says yes? You're telling me you're peaking at 14? So it's not easy, right? It is hard. But exclusion sees us put people into prison. And if they are a murdering, drug-dealing rapist, and we want to hurt them even though they are resilient because they've come up through the school of hard knocks and they're tough as teeth, as we would say in Australia, and they're still not getting the message, they're still not complying. What are we going to do with them? Oh, we know what to do with them. We're going to exclude them from murdering, drug dealing rapists. We're going to remove them from the prison community and put them in solitary. Because we know it doesn't matter how tough you are, that will do your head in. But that's not where it starts, is it? It starts with the words, "You can't play with us." It's a little boy or a little girl who goes home to their mum and dad and says, "What's wrong with me? Why doesn't anybody like me? Why doesn't anybody want to play with me?" And if this campaign is this much successful, when that happens, there will be a voice. A voice that has the courage to be kind, to put at risk what they value most. They think it's popularity. It's not. It's that sense of belonging. To put that at risk to do what is right rather than what is popular, and they will speak up and they will say, "Yes, she can." Now that's kindness. Selfless, courageous. And right now, that's what not just this country needs, that's what we all need. But you guys are the most influential nation on the planet. How did we get here? Big business did not go marching down the streets with picket signs. Big government did not go protesting down the streets saying, "Remove kindness from the agenda." It didn't happen. It happened with subtle influences driven by fear. So when I got involved in this campaign, I had to ask, what is the most successful campaign in the world? Because obviously we could learn from that. Obviously it's not kindness, right? That's a no-brainer. What is the most successful campaign in the world? How do you measure that? Well, it would be in the media, right? It would be in the media 24/7. And it would even capture those good people who would seem to oppose it. Now that's a talent. Now the campaign I'm talking about, of course, is the campaign of fear, hate and terror. So let's acknowledge that it's successful. Let's acknowledge that it's won. It's winning. Because unless we acknowledge it, we're going to continue to get captured by it. So how does it work? How does this campaign of fear work? Well, let's reverse engineer it, deconstruct it, get down to its core business model. And what that is a couple of people meeting in a cafe, hanging out and having a conversation and deciding that they're going to go and do something epic, something public. Maybe they get a few friends involved. There's no governance, there's no fundraising, there's no hierarchy. Maybe they download some stuff from the internet, like you do for Dance for Kindness, right? It's really simple. We don't need to confuse it, but it's flawed. Now, why is it flawed? Well, you only get to do it once. And two, you've got to do it covertly. You've got to do it in secret. So why don't we use the basis of that, but let's do it publicly and let's do it repeatedly. We don't need to control. World Kindness USA, nobody owns. There is no founder. How cool is that? That means it's less likely to have egos going on. And let's form these cells, but we won't call them cells in America, but let's form these groups. Let's call them whatever you want to call them. I really don't care. Project team, whatever it is. Have a conversation and plan on doing something. Put kindness on the agenda. Leave your comfort zone. and it'll happen, but we do it with the support of the city. So last night what happened? This declaration, wherever it is, this declaration that was signed wasn't a proclamation, it was a unanimous resolution signed by everyone in politics. Red and blue and whatever other colours you've got over here, I don't know, but it was a rainbow, right? And they signed it. And now they're going to walk the talk because that's what it says it's going to do. They're going to meet those KPIs. And I know there are some people, particularly journalists, if there's any here, that may be sceptical about politicians signing a declaration. Yeah? Photo opportunity, makes it look good, why not? And then I'm normally reminding people in other countries about a young nation that not that long ago signed a declaration. And in that preamble it said all men are created equal. Now it didn't happen overnight, it certainly didn't get better. And maybe not everyone that signed it believed it, but what did happen is that it eventually found its way into the laws of the land and for the most part into the hearts and minds of a nation. But something unexpected happened. It found its way across the ocean to a farm in South Africa to a young boy called Nelson. Found its way to India to a law student called Gandhi. Found its way to Chicago to the son of a preacher called Martin. And it ignited a spark in them, a spark for an unshakable belief that they would be an agent for positive change. One believed that there would be an end to apartheid even though he sat rotting for 27 years in a prison. How ridiculous is that? One believed that through peaceful protest, one man could take on the might of the British Empire's brutal injustice. And one man had a dream. So when you sign these declarations in your workplaces, in your not-for-profits, in your sporting clubs, when you get behind the city's campaign, and we take this to Congress, and we take this to the Senate, and we take it to the UN, maybe this declaration will find its way to a classroom. Maybe to a classroom in Pakistan to a young girl called Malala. Or maybe to a classroom in Salisbury to a young girl called Savannah. Because there are sleeping agents of positive change all around us. You could just be a dad at a school, coach of a soccer team. Could be just a mum. You could be a retired principal. You could be a journalist. You could be a chef, a waiter. You just don't know what's in you until you dig a little deeper. So thank you, Salisbury. All I ask is my unreasonable request is that you leave your comfort zone, you get behind this, you put kindness on the agenda and you walk the talk, because you've got a good shot at getting this listing and being the first city in the USA to be listed as a World Kindness City. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take a question if I have time.